So today I'm going to be showing you how to replace your front brake pads and rotors on your Toyota Corolla. This one's a 2010.
Hey guys, I'm Jordan and you're watching Fixbook. After watching this video, your car problems stand about as much a chance as this laptop does against my hot leg. Now, make sure you stay tuned so you can see what happened to the laptop at the end of this video. And as always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment down below.
So for today's project, you want a jack stand, a crossbar or a breaker bar, and a 21mm socket, some brake grease, they sell them in the little packets at your local parts store, a pair of pliers, flathead screwdriver, a extended 3/8 ratchet or regular 3/8 ratchet, you should be able to get by with that, a 14mm, 17mm socket, and a big old C-clamp, and of course you need brake pads and rotors if you need it. So with all that said, we'll go ahead and begin today's project. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and break your lug nuts loose. You got 21mm lug nuts, take a breaker bar and your socket there or a crossbar, break those loose, then we're going to lift it up and I'm going to show you where you can put your jack on basically right along the center beam. Here is a good sturdy place to lift up both the wheels off the ground. And then your jack stand, if you look under here you'll notice you have two metal frame areas, and that'd be a good place to set your jack stand, so right there about the middle of my light. So now I'll show you the next step. Alright, so we've got a wheel off here, and the first thing we're going to do is remove our two fasteners. We have 14mm bolts sitting right here. I'll go ahead and zip them off. The next thing we'll do is take a flathead screwdriver and compress the piston in our caliper just a little bit to assist with removing this piece right here. Okay guys, so here I just got a Phillips screwdriver where it's saying I'm going to just reach in there and get behind it and compress a little bit, and by pulling it this way we're pushing the piston back a little bit, so that's going to allow us to rock back and forth a little bit, and it's going to allow us to take off your caliper a little bit easier. So now you can see our rotor and our brake pads. Okay guys, so here is our brake pads, and we're just going to pop out right like that. Just go ahead and wiggle them until they come out. And now, listen here, sit back and listen to what I got to say about rotors. Alright, we have now reached the most important segment of this video. Please do not skip over this part of the video. It's important for you to hear what I've got to say about rotors, and it's important to assure that after you've done your brake repair, your car will be safe to drive. So, we've got a few different options here when it comes to dealing with your rotors. You can either replace your rotor, have your rotor resurfaced, or you can keep and use your current rotor as is. Now, first I'm going to go over replacing the rotor. It is an absolute must to replace the rotor if its measurement is below the minimum thickness threshold to ensure your car is safe to drive. What I'm going to describe here in just a second, whether you want or don't want to replace the rotor, that's up to you. Affordability and comfort is at hand. But if it is below the minimum thickness threshold, there's no other way about it. You must replace the rotor. Okay, so now that we understand that, and here in just a second I'll show you how to measure it and be able to tell whether it's below the threshold or not. But now we're going to talk about turning your rotors. Now, there's a couple reasons you could turn your rotor, and that's to keep your present rotor, and you can pay about $10 to Napa or O'Reilly, where they have a brake lathe and they will turn your rotor for you. It's a cheaper option than buying a whole new rotor. And the reason you'd want to do that is if you've wore your brake pads down metal to metal and the metal pad is wedged in grooves there and it's all torn up, then you don't want to put new pads on that torn up surface with your old rotor, so you'd want to have your rotor resurfaced, and that's to ensure longevity for your new brake pads. The other reason to have your rotors resurfaced at a parts store is if you're having vibration problems with your rotors. That is, if you're driving down the highway and you apply the brake pedal and you feel your brake pedal vibrating. If you don't like that, that would be a good reason to have your rotors turned. But if you're really particular, just keep in mind that when the rotors are thinner, they're more likely to develop that warpage problem, because what happens is you'll be driving down the road, you'll run through a big puddle of water, and the water will splash on the hot rotor and it'll warp the rotor. The thicker the rotor is, or the newer the rotor is, it's going to be less likely to develop this problem. So resurfacing the rotor, if you have that problem, will fix the problem, but it'll come back faster. So if you have the extra money and you really don't want that problem, you can go ahead and just throw money at it and just get a new rotor every time. But if you want to see the problem go away and risk it coming back or not, it may or may not come back, you can go ahead and turn it and get out of the situation cheaper and be more comfortable. Now the last option is to just keep your rotor and put new brake pads on. That is a very acceptable option, and that's what I do about 80% of the time. Again, as long as the rotor is above the minimum threshold, because if it's not going to be safe to drive. So it's okay to put new pads on your old rotor if it's smooth like this you can see right here. As long as it's a semi-smooth surface, you can go ahead and put the new brake pads on. It's really fine. So those are the three options that you have: replacing, resurfacing, or just keeping your old one. And again, most of the time, most people are just fine keeping their old rotor and putting new pads on top of their old rotor. One more thing I almost forgot to is rotors that cause vibration, they're safe to drive. It's just an uncomfortable thing. The unsafe thing is the below the minimum thickness, but rotors that cause vibration are safe to drive. And also, this minimum thickness number, if I don't tell you exactly what the number is here in just a second, you can find it at your parts store. They'll give you a discard thickness number on your rotor, so keep that in mind too. And the minimum thickness for this rotor is 19 millimeters. So we're going to take our tool here, we're going to zero them out, and then we're going to get right there, and we're reading about 21.25. So this rotor is going to be good. But here in just a second, I'll show you what you're going to do if you want to replace your rotor. Alright, so now we're just going to remove this bracket we got here. You got two 17 millimeter bolts. So I'm going to go ahead and break these both loose, remove these. I'll show you in just a second when I'm removing the bracket. Once you've got both your bolts just about out, you can go ahead and take your bracket and set him off to the side. Okay guys, so basically this rotor is a non-captured rotor, which means you don't have to remove your axle nut in order to remove the rotor. And this one's on there really good, and I'm not actually replacing this rotor, so I'm not going to take it off for you. But you can see you've got two holes here, and basically you take a bolt. I know in a Honda you take any 12 millimeter bolt off your car, and it's going to be the threads for that guy right there. And basically you'll tighten, and this will pull your rotor off. Now, if you have a difficult time getting your rotor off, check out or do a YouTube search, Fixbook Rotor, Fixbook stuck on rotor, something along those lines, and you'll find my video showing you how to remove a difficult rotor. I think it's tough rotor, stuck on rotor, something like that. So now I'll go ahead and show you the rest of what you need to do to put everything back together. Alright, so now we're just going to take our bracket, go ahead and slip them back in here, and then go ahead and start your bolts, and then we'll get these guys tightened down, and make sure you tighten these bolts up good and tight. Okay guys, so the next thing we have to do here is the brake pads we got from AutoZone here. The wear indicator is sitting on the top here, and both your brake pads go in like that. So what you're going to do is line up two other brake pads. They're all the same, but line them up so we can tell where your wear indicator is going to go. And basically guys, how this works is you're going to take this piece right here and stick this on right there. And you can see that's the indicator part, and that's what's going to touch your rotor for your the next time you need to do your brakes. That's going to be the indicator here. So basically, you can just slide this guy on right like that, and then you can see this doesn't quite match up with this right here. So with a pair of pliers, you need to make this piece look like this piece, and try and line it up. If you can see on this piece, the end of your indicator is just parallel with the end of the clip on the bottom part. So you're going to do the same thing, just make this look like that, and then I'll show you what we're going to do when we're putting our new pads on. Okay guys, so the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to compress our piston all the way back, and this is going to allow that caliper to slide over our new brake pads. So basically you're going to position it in such a way like I got here, stick an old brake pad in there, and we're pushing this piston back. So I'm just going to go ahead and twist it there and go slowly because we don't want to damage a seal, because if you do it really quickly you can damage stuff. So just about the pace I'm going right now, just nice and slow. And at this point, if you have filled your brake reservoir in between this brake change, you may see fluid falling down on the floor coming from your engine bay, and that's because you didn't need that brake fluid that you added in between your brake change. Basically, when your pistons extend, it makes your brake fluid go down, so then when you push them back, it pushes it the fluid level back up, and oftentimes you'll see brake fluid spilling on the ground. So no worries there. So now I'll show you next step here in just a second when installing our things here. And guys, you just want to get that piston flush with the caliper housing there. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to get your brakes aligned so we can put them in there, and then you're just going to put some grease here. Try not to get it on the end of the wear indicator, but just get it here so when they're rocking back and forth, they're not going to make any noise. And you can get this grease, they sell in little packets at your local parts store. So now I'll go ahead and put our new brake pads in. Okay guys, so now we're going to put our new pads in. I got this one in, and basically how this works is we have a little clip here, and it's kind of sprung, so you kind of get it in like that, and then you're going to work this guy around here just like so, and then we'll be able to take our caliper, we'll be able to slide them over this guy right here, and let's see, your slide pins. I need to talk to you about the slide pins. So basically these guys aren't rocking back and forth very easily. When you have this, what you need to do is remove your slide pin, and we're going to wipe this guy down and we're going to re-lubricate them. And these guys need to be sliding back and forth freely to ensure that our brake pads wear correctly. If not, you can have one pad wear all the way down, you can have them wear funny, and that largely in part is due to these slide pins not being lubed up. So like I said, just wipe it down, take some of that brake grease you got, re-lube it, and then once we stick it back in here, you're going to want to make sure it rocks back and forth nicely like mine does right there. Then you can go ahead and set your new caliper right down on here. Go ahead and get your bolts in, tighten everything up, and then also one quick thing, the caliper slide pin, if it's stuck like this one right here and you have a difficult time getting it out, YouTube search Fixbook slide pin or Fixbook pin, and you'll find a video showing you how to deal with this guy. So like I was saying, we'll get this guy back on, and then the last thing you need to worry about is tightening down these two bolts, get your wheel back on. And when you get in your car, the first thing you're going to notice is when you depress the brake pedal, it's going to go all the way down to the floor. You need to pump it up until it gets stiff, and that's going to give you braking power. So when you put it in reverse or drive, you get to hit your brakes, you're actually going to stop. If you don't do that, you may just hit whatever is in front of you or behind you if you forget to depress the brake pedal and get it stiff, because basically you're sending your piston back and reapplying pressure to your brake pads against your rotor. So don't forget to depress your brake pedal. Also, if this is the first time you've changed your brakes, you may notice smoke or a funny smell the first time you drive your car after replacing your brakes. This is oils and from when you've touched the brakes, and that's normal. So that's pretty much going to conclude today's project. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all my new videos, which publish Mondays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific Time, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Central Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and I will see you then.